Hi everyone, my name is Ashwin. I am the CEO and co-founder of Reslash, a virtual space platform where you can work, socialize, hang out, teach. We build virtual classrooms with a lot of big universities like University of Chicago and others. So I wanted to impart the learnings that we have had so far while building virtual classrooms and share it with you. So today I'm going to be talk about how to build a virtual first highly engaging classroom and how do you get that experience right. Hopefully we'll have a blueprint by the end of it so that we are able to understand what kind of changes do we need to make to build a virtual first highly engaging classroom. So here's what the traditional classroom looks like, at least till 2020. I actually did my higher education in Canada at Memorial University of Newfoundland, and I remember my first year class. It had more than 250 people. When I walked in, it looked something like this: a professor with a huge screen at the center, going through the lecture. It was the class. The class would last about 50 minutes. 40 minutes or 45 minutes would be for lectures, and then obviously about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. And I remember during my entire university life, I don't think I've ever asked a question while the class was going on, and it was because of how scary and how daunting this setup is. Um, and why have these classrooms not become smaller? Because they've been higher applications, lower acceptance rates, and we've got the worst outcome. We've got much bigger classes, and I don't see this trend going down. Now, post COVID, what has happened is all of this experience that we have had in the real world has actually transferred to the online space. Um, Most of the people are online, they're on mute, they're staring at their screens. it's it's just a weird experience. It feels so mechanical, and you feel like just it's so mechanical that you want to get into a class and learn, but all you end up doing is just listening to a lecture like you would to a podcast. You're not interacting. You are shy to express yourself amongst the millions of boxes that you see on your screen, something like this. And even in the screenshot, a lot of people have got their videos on, but most of the classrooms you'll see that people have got their videos and audio completely turned off. So when you're trying to build a highly engaging, highly motivated classroom that wants to learn, that wants to interact, that wants to collaborate, suddenly you have an online experience like this where no one is interacting with anyone. And this is something that is not new in the experience that we have here. This is just amplifying this experience, because here at least you can read the body language, you can talk to the person next to you, you can meet people after the class, you can walk over to the professor if you have to. In this experience is just 50 minutes of this, and then you drop off, and then what? You haven't you don't have any peer groups to interact with. You don't make the kind of connections you do in a real classroom. The professors are less approachable. You have to schedule meetings for everything. There's no serendipity of just walking over to a professor to talk to them. And it's just this experience just amplifies the issues that we had in the real world and makes it even worse. So, what's the problem with these experiences? So, when you're trying to, have a highly engaging classroom, you need to promote learning. There are two components to it. Obviously, the lectures that professors give, the lectures where you give the content or you share the content or explain the content in a lot of detail to your students. And then the second bit is, as students consume this content and as students go through the exercises and the texts and the assignments that you've made for them, they go through the learning challenges, because every student, learns at their own pace. If you expect people to learn at the same pace across different learning styles and different ways of thinking in a classroom, it's actually almost impossible. And that's why even the real classroom, one of the worst ways to actually learn anything about anything, because you're expected to learn in a very linear fashion from one link to another. And suddenly, if you're stuck, if one of the links break down, the entire chain breaks down, and suddenly you reach a point where you're not learning anything. You're just sitting through these lectures. It used to happen in a real classroom. It's already happening in the online world. So what we need to really need to focus on are on the learning challenges. So how do we figure out what are the most common learning challenges that students go through? How do we categorize them? How do we recognize them, make them specific, and then figure out ways for the professors and the students to kind of interact around it and solve it so that they can get out of the rut and actually learn something from the classroom experience. So let's first figure out what exactly is wrong with online classroom. When we think of online classroom, most of the people, even after a year and a half into the pandemic, even now we think of online classroom as online lectures, and it's like it's not a fair comparison because lectures are something that can be recorded and put on. What you need to figure out is how do we create that one-to-one professor-student experience? How do we emulate that? Obviously, we cannot have as many professors as there are students, but how do we emulate that experience? It's almost like going from, a car that is being driven by humans to a driverless car. How do we emulate that experience? How do we use technology effectively to emulate that one-to-one professor-student experience and make sure people are able to comprehend the material as effectively as possible? And the second thing is the learning challenges that come up while students are going through this experience. How do we address them as quickly as possible? How do we create materials around it? And how do we make sure that they go back to the path of learning when there's a breakdown in their understanding of the material? So to make a highly interactive classroom, there are three key ingredients. You need to have active learning through interactive texts and recorded lectures. You need lectures that address the most common learning challenges. And you need to have interactive group sessions based on the learning challenges. So what we need to do is we need to reverse the iceberg that we saw. We need to give a lot more focus on the learning challenges that students face and a lot less on the lecture side of things, to the point that we automate that bit completely. So this is what a pre-recorded lecture in a Reslash environment looks like. I'm sharing this specific screen share because you can have lecture rooms where you have pre-recorded lectures, and you can schedule multiple slots across the day where students can walk in at their own convenience and go through the lectures together. So what this does is, you are able to include a lot more students. You work around their clock, and then you have always available lectures. The thing that is missing with recorded lectures is that you sometimes need people to watch it with. So for example, I have a peer group that I interact with in an online class. That's the group that I'm working with. Now if you're working on a problem together, we can schedule these lectures together in highly personalized rooms for us, and we can watch these lectures and actually interact amongst us to understand what's going on. We can pause, we can discuss, we can play. We can pause, we can discuss, we can play. And this kind of interactive experience that you can have along with pre-recorded content that's already out there would really help you cut down on the number of lectures or live lectures that you have to give during a session, but without sacrificing the interactive aspect. So this is a much more engaging experience because you can take a pause and actually discuss what's going on. If you can afford, you can even have TAs in this experience where the common questions are being answered for these groups effectively, and they can walk across multiple rooms, or you can have one TA for a small group and still have these doubts cleared. So that's one experience for pre-recorded lectures where you can have almost like watch parties around these lectures and make them highly interactive. Some things we need to learn from platforms online, something like Code Academy. So what's interesting is the interactive text format that they use. So you see the lecture on the left side, and then you see an exercise that they have to do in real time on the right side. And that is really important. How do you break down a topic into multiple subtopics, and each topic should have one exercise attached to it while you're learning the content? Why this is important is because, as we talked about the learning challenges, wherever you get stuck, wherever you're not able to solve the problem, wherever you have doubts, you will be able to figure out these specific parts where people do not understand what's going on, and these are the learning challenges that people have. Now when you have this data where you understand, you know, the parts of the lectures that people are not able to understand or not able to solve, at that point of time you can, you know, create groups around these learning challenges. You can have lectures around these learning challenges. You can have forums and discussion threads around these learning challenges. So, what this does is, instead of focusing on the entire thing as a whole and make it generic and making it impersonal, you suddenly are, you know, creating or aggregating groups and resources around the specific challenges that students are facing. So as you can see, here's a live lecture that is happening, and the way you need to use live lectures is to actually address the most common learning challenges within your classroom. So you know, let's say you have a classroom of 20, and based on the interactive text that you have given them, you recognize that these are the top 5 or 10 learning challenges that people had from the first topic that you want to talk about. So instead of actually going through the entire lecture, what you can do is you can pick these learning challenges and talk about them within the classroom, and this makes sure that, you know, you are talking about things that matter to the students who are having challenges with the material. And then you can also have group work while these classrooms are going on, or after these live classes are going on, where they can collaborate with each other and solve these problems together. So just to give you an idea of, like, you know, the group sessions that we have on Reslash. So one of the problems that people have is, you know, they have to divide the classroom into multiple breakout rooms. So one of the things that people use this for is to actually skip the whole idea of a breakout room, and you can just, like, you know, walk across the classrooms and interact with multiple groups within the same space. So again, this is really really interesting, and these are the kind of experiences that you can create to make sure you can handle a classroom by yourself. You don't need TAs, or you don't need to get into the black box of multiple breakout rooms, and you can manage a classroom within a single experience. Similarly, you know, you can also have highly interactive group sessions. So again, you have the material there, you have the screen shares there, and you can have these group of people working together within a single experience, and you can have the professors walk in and out of these experiences to help the groups out with their learning challenges. So what we need to do is build virtual classrooms that automate lectures. And what do we mean by that? There are two aspects to summarize. One is using the live lectures to, you know, address the learning challenges, and figuring out learning challenges through you know, through an interactive text like lectures that people can go through and do exercises in parallel, something that you see on Code Academy. So those are the kind of tools that are important for you to automate the learning aspect. And then you need to address the lectures and the live lectures around these learning challenges, and create a repository of you know, videos that students or groups can go through at their own time to really work out the challenges that they're having and do it effectively. It's hard. So this whole method is incredibly hard to actually implement, because you have to record your lectures. You have to create interactive text, and, you know, you need to get these tools in place to really get things going. If you use something like Reslash, you'll have to design your entire classroom and your collaboration sessions and things like that. But once you put that in place, it completely scales. If you can imagine 50 students doing it, you can imagine thousands of students doing it. They can go through the lectures together, themselves into multiple groups. They can have interactive group sessions, and then you can have scheduled group sessions with TAs and things like that. And by addressing the learning challenges wherever someone gets stuck, they have enough resources at that point of time to get back on the learning track, instead of like just leaving them behind in the linearity of the lectures and the linearity of the classes that we do right now. So if you're looking to expand your class outside the classroom, get a lot more students from across the world, this is the best way to kind of get it going. So yeah, so it's time to change this and make it a lot more interactive, a lot more personal, and bring back the sense of education and the excitement about learning back into the classroom. And yeah, do check out Reslash. Reslash lets you build these virtual spaces. You can change the backgrounds. You can split people into multiple rooms. You can have the entire classroom in a single space and talking parallelly in multiple groups, because we use spatial audio. So this could be an exciting tool that you could use to solve a lot of the problems. And then you should look into live interactive text platforms as well, to really complete the entire experience. If you have any questions, email me at ashwin@reslash.co. I will be more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.